Admiral Kyle Rourke stood in front of the wide window of his transport ship, Orion's Hand, staring at the massive structure ahead. Argon 5, the seat of the Galactic Assembly. It hung in the dark like a shining crown, spinning slowly near the dead star of Rexos. Over 40 alien civilizations had sent their leaders here. And now, once again, humanity stood alone in their shadow. Kyle took a breath and turned to his crew. His officers stood ready, silent and tense. No one spoke. They all knew why they had come. The ship docked without trouble. Kyle walked down the ramp, his long black coat brushing against his boots. His face was set like stone. Soldiers in silver armor lined the entrance. No one greeted him. No one smiled. Inside the assembly hall, the air was heavy. The wide chamber, shaped like a giant circle, echoed with quiet whispers in 100 languages. Floating banners showed the symbols of each race. Humanity's symbol, a silver spiral on a black field, hung alone on the far side. Kyle felt the cold stare of every eye as he walked to Earth's place at the table. The Assembly's leader, Chairman Vorin Deck of the Zarthan Union, rose from his high seat. His pale, thin face was unreadable. His long fingers tapped on the table, sending a soft clicking sound through the room. Admiral Rourke, Vorin spoke, his voice smooth and cold. "You know why we have gathered." Kyle said nothing. He only nodded once. Vorin stood taller. His black and gold robe shimmered under the pale lights. He spoke again, louder now, his voice filling the chamber. "Humanity has controlled the Soul Slipstream Gateway for 20 years, he began. It is the only gateway in that part of the galaxy. Its value is beyond measure. But humanity, in its youth and pride, has refused to share control. The Assembly will not allow this any longer." Kyle's fists tightened at his sides. Vorin continued, "You are called here to surrender control of the Soul Gateway. From this day forward, it will belong to the Assembly to serve all. Earth will be paid in trade and protection." Whispers filled the chamber again. Some nodded in agreement. Others looked away, silent but watching. Kyle stood slowly, placing his hands on the table. His voice, calm but sharp, cut through the noise. "Let me be clear," Kyle said. "Earth has protected the Soul Gateway with our ships, our people, and our blood. We opened trade. We followed your laws. Now you ask us to surrender it, as if it was never ours." Vorin's eyes narrowed. "We ask you to share it for the peace of all." Kyle shook his head. "What you ask is not peace. It is control." The chamber fell silent again. Kyle leaned closer. "I will take your demand back to Earth. But do not mistake silence for agreement. We will answer soon." Vorin's cold smile returned. "You have 3 cycles to decide. After that, the Assembly will take action." Kyle gave one last look around the hall. He saw no friends, no allies, only watchers, only takers. He turned and walked out, his boots echoing through the empty corridor. As he boarded Orion's Hand again, he knew the weight of Earth's future rested on his shoulders. The galaxy was watching, and it would not wait forever. The Orion's Hand sailed quietly through the black sea of stars. Earth's blue light was still days away. Admiral Kyle Rourke sat in the command chair, staring at the empty space ahead. He felt like a man carrying a mountain on his back. His crew moved around him, speaking only when needed. The tension had followed them from Argon 5 like a shadow that would not leave. Kyle knew what waited on Earth: questions, demands, fear. But first, he had to speak with the High Command. They were already waiting for him on the ship's secured meeting deck. When the ship's clock struck the hour, Kyle stood and made his way there. The room was small and cold. A round table stood in the center. The faces of Earth's leaders flickered to life on the hollow screens around him. Military generals, government officials, and science counselors, all looking serious, all waiting to hear the truth. Kyle stood straight and gave his report. "The Assembly demands we surrender the Soul Gateway," he said, his voice steady. "They offer trade and protection in return, but they made it clear, if we refuse, they will take it by force." The room fell silent. Faces shifted. Some frowned. Some looked down. Kyle knew what they were thinking. War with the Assembly meant war with the galaxy. General Briggs, an old soldier with a deep voice, spoke first. "We can't fight the whole Assembly, Kyle. We don't have the numbers. We don't have the ships. Counselor May, head of the Science Guild, nodded. If we lose the gateway, we lose our future. No more trade. No more influence. Earth becomes a quiet corner of the stars again. Minister Holloway leaned forward, his voice sharp. Better a quiet corner than a graveyard. Arguments filled the room. Voices rose. Some shouted for surrender. Others called for resistance. Kyle listened, but said nothing. His mind spun like a storm. At last, the room quieted again. All eyes turned to him. What do you think, Admiral? Holloway asked. Do we fight or do we give up? Kyle took a breath. We need time. I'll speak with the fleet. I'll speak with our people. But know this, if we surrender now, they will never stop. What they take today, they will take again tomorrow. No one argued. They all knew he was right. The meeting ended. Kyle walked the halls of the ship, lost in thought. He stopped by the observation deck. The stars stretched out forever. Somewhere out there, the assembly was already planning their next move. He felt a presence behind him. It was Captain Sarah Holt, his second in command. She was young but sharp, with dark eyes that missed nothing. You think they'll attack? She asked softly. Kyle nodded. If we don't give them what they want. Sarah crossed her arms. And if we do? Kyle turned to face her. We lose everything we've built. She looked away, silent for a moment. Then she spoke again. What's the plan, sir? Kyle sighed. I'm not sure yet. Later that night, a message came. A private channel. The sender was Vorendek. Kyle knew he should refuse it. He knew it was a trap. But something told him he needed to hear what the Zarthan leader had to say. He accepted the call. Voren's pale face appeared on the small screen. His thin smile never reached his cold eyes. Admiral Rourke, Voren said smoothly, I offer you one last chance to save your people. Kyle kept his face blank. Speak. Voren leaned closer. Surrender the gateway. Bring Earth under the Assembly's shield. We will protect you. Your people will thrive. No blood will be spilled. Kyle's jaw tightened. And if we refuse? Voren's smile faded. His voice dropped to a whisper. Then Earth will burn. The screen went dark. Kyle sat alone in the cold light of the empty room. His choice was clearer now. But the cost of either path felt the same. Too high. He stood, staring at the dark glass, the stars beyond silent and cold. The countdown had begun. The Orion's hand entered Earth's orbit under a sky full of warships. Earth's defense fleet had gathered like a shield around the planet. Hundreds of ships floated in formation. Heavy cruisers, battle frigates, long-range destroyers. Kyle Rourke had seen them all before, but never like this. Never waiting for orders that might lead to war. Kyle stood at the bridge window, looking down at the blue and white planet below. Earth, his home, his people. They were waiting for him to choose their future. The ship docked at Unity Station, the largest defense platform in orbit. Kyle left the Orion's hand and was met by General Briggs and Captain Holt. Both walked in silence beside him toward the council chamber. The mood on the station was tense. Soldiers moved quickly through the halls. Engineers worked day and night on weapon systems. No one smiled. No one spoke without purpose. Everyone felt the storm coming. The council chamber was filled when Kyle entered. Large screens showed news feeds from every part of Earth. Protests had broken out in major cities. Some demanded surrender to keep peace. Others demanded war to protect freedom. The world was dividing fast. Kyle raised his hand, and the room fell quiet. The Assembly has given us 3 cycles to surrender, he began. We have 2 cycles left. General Briggs spoke first. We can have the full fleet in position within hours. Defense stations are ready. Counselor May stood up, her voice shaking. We cannot win this war, Admiral. The Assembly's fleets outnumber us 10-1. Kyle nodded. I know, but surrender means giving up our future. Minister Holloway leaned forward. Our people are scared. Look at them. He pointed to the screens. They fear war more than they fear the Assembly. Kyle turned to the room. Then what do you suggest? We kneel and hope they stop taking from us. Silence filled the air again. No one had a good answer. Later, Kyle walked the outer ring of Unity Station alone. He watched the Earth below. The weight on his shoulders felt heavier than ever. Captain Holt found him there. She stood beside him without speaking at first. Then she broke the silence. "Do you really think we have a choice?" she asked. Kyle didn't look at her. "We always have a choice." She lowered her voice. "And what if that choice costs everything?" Kyle turned to face her. "If we give in now, we lose who we are. They will own us." Sarah nodded slowly. "Then we fight." Kyle sighed. "We prepare, but we don't act until the last moment." The next morning, a second message came from Vorendek. The Admiral stood alone in the command center as the screen lit up again. Voren's face looked colder than before. "You have one cycle left," Voren said. "Your silence is an insult." Kyle leaned on the console. "Earth does not surrender." Voren's face darkened. His voice dropped low. "You are fools, Admiral. You cannot win. We'll die free before we live under your rule," Kyle said without fear. Voren leaned closer, eyes like ice. "So be it. We will come for your gateway." The screen went black. Kyle turned to the officers standing behind him. "Sound the alert. Full defense posture." The alarms echoed through the station. Red lights flashed. The soldiers of Earth prepared for war. Kyle stood at the center of it all, his heart heavy but steady. He had made his choice. Earth's leaders gathered one last time in Unity Station's war chamber. The final day had come. The deadline set by the assembly would end in less than 6 hours. Every screen in the chamber showed fleets gathering across the stars. Not just Earth ships, but assembly war fleets too. Dozens of them. Big ones. Ships with firepower that could burn cities from orbit. Kyle Rourke stood at the center of the room, surrounded by his officers and council members. All of them looked to him now. There was nothing more to say. There was only the choice left to make. General Briggs broke the silence first. "We have the fleet ready, Admiral. We can block the gateway before they arrive." Counselor May spoke next. "We still have time to send a surrender message. They will accept it, if it comes from you." Minister Holloway shook his head slowly. "If we fight, we may not survive this. If we surrender, we will never be free again." The weight of every word pressed on Kyle like a mountain. He turned to Captain Holt, standing by the side of the chamber. "Bring up the channel to the assembly," Kyle ordered. Holt nodded and worked the controls. Within seconds, the giant screen lit up. The assembly hall on Argon 5 appeared. Dozens of alien leaders sat in their places. Vorendek stood at the center, tall and still. Kyle stepped forward. He did not bow. He did not greet them. He spoke with a clear and steady voice. "This is Admiral Kyle Rourke of Earth. You demanded we surrender our gateway. You offered trade. You promised protection. You threatened destruction." The chamber on Argon 5 stayed silent. Voren did not move. He simply watched. Kyle continued. "Earth does not accept your terms. We will not give you the gateway. We will not submit to your control." Some voices in the assembly hall started to rise in shock, but Kyle raised his voice louder. "From this day forward, humanity withdraws from the assembly. We leave your council. We leave your laws. Earth will stand alone." Voren's cold face twitched for just a moment. He raised one hand, and the voices in the chamber fell quiet again. "Admiral Rourke," Voren said softly, "do you understand what you are doing?" Kyle's eyes narrowed. "Yes, I do. Earth chooses freedom, no matter the cost." Voren's lips pressed into a thin line. "Then you have sealed your people's fate." Kyle nodded once. "We'll decide our fate ourselves." Without waiting for another word, Kyle cut the transmission. The screen went black. The chamber on Unity Station stayed silent. No one spoke. No one moved. Kyle turned to his officers. "Send the order to the fleet. Move to blockade position. No ship passes through the gateway without Earth's approval." General Briggs gave a sharp nod. "Yes, sir." The officers began moving. Orders were given. Ships powered up. Earth's fleet shifted into position like a great wall of steel and fire. Kyle stayed in the chamber, staring at the blank screen. Captain Holt stood beside him again. She spoke softly. "It's done." Kyle nodded, but his voice was heavy. "It's just begun." Far across the stars, the assembly watched. Some in shock, some in anger, some in silence. Humanity had left the table. The galaxy held its breath. The Sol system had never looked like this before. Ships, thousands of ships. Earth's defense fleet now formed a tight wall around the slipstream gateway. From the outer moons of Jupiter to the edge of Neptune's orbit, Earth's warships stretched like a net. Cruisers, frigates, and destroyers floated in perfect formation. Their weapons were hot. Their shields were charged. Every crew on every ship stood ready. Admiral Kyle Rourke stood on the bridge of the Orion's Hand. Through the wide window, he watched the gateway spin in the distance. A giant silver ring floating in space. It shimmered with energy. It was beautiful, and it was the reason the galaxy was coming for them. Kyle's face was calm, but his chest felt heavy. He knew what was coming next. Captain Holt stood beside him. She had barely left his side since they left Argon 5. "The assembly fleets are close," she reported. "Scanners show they'll arrive in less than 4 hours." Kyle nodded. "Tell all ships to hold position. No one fires unless I give the order." Holt sent the command. Kyle knew this was more than a military action. This was a message. Earth was making a stand, but it was not starting the war. The assembly had to make the first move. The galaxy had to see who would start the fire. On Earth, the news feeds ran without stopping. Every city watched. Every home waited. Some people gathered in the streets, holding signs for peace. Others stood on rooftops, waving Earth's flag toward the sky. Some cried. Some shouted. Some simply prayed. In the command center on Unity Station, General Briggs paced back and forth. "We can't win if they push through with everything they've got," he said. "We'll hold as long as we can, but they'll break the line eventually." Kyle listened, but said nothing. He had already run the numbers in his head 100 times. He knew the risks. Counselor May called in from Earth. "Admiral, the world is afraid. The people want to know, is there still a way out of this?" Kyle leaned on the console. "The only way out is forward. We already made our choice." May's face fell. She nodded sadly and ended the call. Hours passed. The assembly fleets arrived. One by one, they dropped out of Slipstream, filling the far side of the system. Giant ships from the Zarthan Union. Fast strikers from the Polari Empire. Heavy carriers from the Rulon Dominion. The fleet looked like a dark wave stretching across the stars. Kyle watched as they moved into position. They stopped just outside Earth's blockade. The distance between the two fleets was close enough for missiles to fly in seconds. A message request came through. "Vorin deck." Kyle accepted. The Zarthan leader's pale face appeared on the screen again. He looked colder than ever. "Admiral Rourke," Vorin said quietly, "you still have time to step aside." Kyle's jaw clenched. "You crossed half the galaxy to threaten us again. This is your last warning, Vorin. Turn around. Go home." Vorin's smile was thin and sharp. "You are brave, Admiral, but you are alone. Do you really believe your tiny fleet can stop us?" Kyle stepped closer to the screen. "We don't need to stop you. We just need to make you pay so high a price that you'll wish you had never come." For the first time, Vorin's smile faded. His face darkened. "You are forcing my hand." Kyle nodded. "No, you forced your own." He cut the channel. The ships held their ground. Minutes passed. No one fired. No one moved. The galaxy watched. Every world, every station, every colony. Billions of lives held their breath. The assembly's fleet stayed where it was, waiting, watching. Captain Holt turned to Kyle. "What are they doing?" Kyle kept his eyes on the enemy's ships. "They're trying to decide if the price is worth it." Time dragged on. 1 hour. 2. 3. Still no one fired. The tension in the air was so thick it felt like the walls would break under the pressure. But the assembly didn't move forward. They didn't attack. Not yet. The two great fleets hung in space, facing each other like hunters waiting for the other to flinch. Earth's ships held firm around the gateway, their weapons locked on targets. The assembly's ships floated just beyond firing range, unmoving but ready to strike. On board the Orion's Hand, the tension pressed like a weight on every crew member. No one spoke above a whisper. The officers on the bridge moved carefully, their eyes fixed on their screens. Kyle Rourke stood in the center of it all, silent and cold as steel. The hours dragged by. Still, no attack came. Kyle knew this couldn't last. Sooner or later, someone would make a move. Captain Holt finally broke the silence. "They're holding back." "Admiral." "What?" Kyle didn't answer right away. He watched the enemy ships on the screen. He could feel it. The assembly hadn't expected Earth to stand like this. They had expected fear, panic, surrender. Instead, They found a wall they weren't sure they could break without a heavy cost. A new message request appeared on Kyle's screen. Vorin deck. Again. Kyle accepted. Vorin's face appeared once more. His expression had changed. He didn't look cold or proud. He looked tired and angry. We should not be here like this, Admiral, Vorin said quietly. Kyle kept his voice calm. You chose this, not us. Vorin leaned forward. You are forcing a war that will burn your world to ash. I'm offering you a way to stop it before it begins. Kyle frowned. You already made your offer. We refused. Vorin's voice dropped lower. There is still time to save your people. Give us the gateway, and this ends now. Kyle felt something inside him tighten. He could hear the fear in Vorin's voice. The assembly leader had expected this to be easy. It wasn't. Kyle stood taller. You never wanted peace, Vorin. You wanted control. And if you think we'll kneel now, you're wrong. Vorin's eyes narrowed. You're willing to sacrifice your entire planet? For what? Pride. Kyle's voice stayed steady. No, for freedom. Vorin stared at him for a long moment. Then his face hardened again. Earth will not survive this. Kyle leaned closer to the screen. Then come and see. He ended the transmission without waiting for Vorin's reply. The bridge fell quiet again. Captain Holt stepped beside Kyle. Do you think they'll attack? Kyle nodded slowly. They have to. If they turn back, they look weak. The other powers will smell blood. General Briggs' voice came through the comm. We're ready, Admiral. Orders. Kyle stood straight, breathing deep. Hold the line. If they move, we meet them head-on. The word spread through every ship in the fleet. Hold the line. Crews strapped in. Pilots gripped their controls. Missile bays unlocked. Laser cannons charged. The great standoff stretched into another hour. Still, the assembly did not move. Kyle watched them, his heart pounding. He knew what this meant. The assembly was afraid. Not of losing, but of what they'd lose in winning. Earth was ready to make them pay in blood and ships. A victory would cost them dearly, and every leader in the assembly knew it. Suddenly, Captain Holt spoke, her voice tight with surprise. Admiral, they're turning. Kyle's eyes snapped to the screen. He watched in shock as the assembly ships began to shift. One by one, the fleet started pulling back. No shots fired. No war declared. The assembly was leaving. The bridge filled with stunned silence. No one moved. No one spoke. Captain Holt turned to Kyle, eyes wide. They're leaving, we held them off. Kyle felt the tightness in his chest loosen for the first time in days. He nodded slowly. We held, he whispered. General Briggs called in again. His voice was full of disbelief. They're pulling back, Admiral. What now? Kyle stood tall, his voice steady and sure. We hold the gate. No ship passes without our word. Earth stands free. Cheers broke out across the fleet. Crews hugged. Pilots shouted. Officers smiled for the first time in days. But Kyle knew better. This was not victory. Not yet. Captain Holt seemed to read his thoughts. They'll be back, won't they? She asked softly. Kyle nodded. Yes. One day. But when they come again, we'll be ready. He turned to the window, looking out at the silent stars. The galaxy had backed down for now. But this wasn't over. Not by far. The stars over Earth were calm again. The fleets of the assembly had vanished into the dark, leaving only silence behind them. But that silence was heavy. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing the ground could break at any moment. Admiral Kyle Rourke stood on the bridge of the Orion's hand, his hands resting on the edge of the command console. Before him, the great slipstream gateway spun quietly, its silver rings humming with soft energy. The gateway was still Earth's. For now, General Briggs sent his report over the comm. All enemy ships have cleared the system, Admiral. We're holding position. No signs of any new movement. Kyle nodded. Keep the fleet in place. We won't relax just yet. Briggs didn't argue. He knew better. They had won a moment of peace, nothing more. Captain Holt stood nearby. She hadn't left Kyle's side since the first day they arrived in orbit. Do you think they'll come back soon? She asked quietly. Kyle turned to her, his face tired but calm. No, they'll wait. They'll plan. They'll look for another way to break us. And if they try again, Kyle looked out the window. Then we hold the line again. On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Humanity holds the gateway. Earth stands alone. The assembly retreats. In cities across the planet, people filled the streets. Some cried, some laughed, some still feared what might come next. But for the first time in days, the people of Earth felt proud. They had stood up. They had not bowed. World leaders gave speeches, calling for unity. Scientists spoke of building stronger defenses. Military commanders promised to prepare for whatever came next. But Kyle knew this wasn't over. Not truly. He called a final meeting with his fleet commanders and the High Council. Their faces filled the war room screens once again. This time there were no shouts, no fear, only focus. "We won time," Kyle told them. "That's all. The assembly will be back, one way or another. They won't let this go." General Briggs leaned forward. "Then we keep building. We keep watching. And when they come, we'll hit them twice as hard." Counselor May nodded. "We should open talks with other free worlds. We can't stand alone forever." Kyle agreed. "Do what you need to do. But understand this. Earth decides its own future. Not them. Not anyone else." No one argued. The council knew the truth. The meeting ended. Kyle returned to the observation deck one last time. He stood there alone, looking out at the stars. He thought of the road ahead. The galaxy was watching, waiting for Earth to make its next move. Kyle whispered to himself, "Let them come." Captain Holt joined him a moment later. She stood quietly beside him. "We did it, Admiral," she said softly. Kyle nodded, a small, tired smile on his face. "Yes, for now we did." He knew they had not ended the threat, but they had shown the galaxy something it would never forget. Earth would not kneel. Not today. Not ever.